somebody give him the number to a shelter. Like that.
I was like,
not helping.
That's so true.
Oh my goodness, he should not give any advice.
It was the baddest advice ever.
He should
I the worst. Oh.
Yeah, we don't want this relationship.
No.
What the hell are you living? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to be marrying a vacuum. What do you mean give up everything for me? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, that is so bad. Like, obviously, I mean, it sounds like an abusive, again, some kind of level, like it's self-abuse almost. Like, I'll give up everything about myself. Like, he's so exhausted. I mean, I think we need to start a GoFundMe page for him to like airlift him out of that. I mean, it is crazy. Or maybe we need to airlift out the wife, because obviously, if that's what he thinks, she's obligated to be running by that law as well.
That's true.
Or maybe this is just what he said to make him very, very scared, to not take her as his wife. Maybe.
No, I really think he is that man. Because he really looked like an
exhausted.
An empty
he looked exhausted.
Void.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We are on today with my guests Priska and Bas on the Too Old for This Shit podcast. I'm Angie S, the founder of angies.com. That's Angie-S.com. Link in the show notes, where I'm a health coach helping busy women fed up of trendy wellness bullshit look and feel younger effortlessly without Botox. To work with me, you can get in touch via the website or email me directly at hello@angie-s.com. So if you haven't yet, please share this podcast with your friends. Rate, review, subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts or follow it on Spotify. For all the other platforms, whichever way you show love is how you can support this show. The more you do that, the more it helps new listeners discover this show. It takes 2 seconds and it's completely free for you to do. And it just really helps support me doing, like, releasing free content week after week. So I'd really, really appreciate it if you do that. Do you want to press pause and do it now? Or is that me just being a bit too pushy and controlling? No? I think it's cute. Come on, do it. Do it now. Okay, I'll back off. So today is a real treat with Priska and Bas. We're 3 today. It's my first threesome. We talk all things men and women when courting, using the Netflix show Love is Blind as a backdrop. Some of the men in the show were dubbed the crier, the swallower, and the masculine. And listen, okay, I'm being totally frank with you now. Obviously, thank you for the whole cast of the show Love is Blind for putting yourselves out there, okay, and teaching us so much just by observing you. Without you, this episode wouldn't exist. So you've given us so many opportunities to learn from you all. And so without further ado, and with the utmost respect to everyone who will be mentioned here, let's begin.
Well, welcome, Priska. Welcome, Bas.
Thank you. Hey.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining me today. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this for a while. And, today I wanted to talk about, love, dating, chemistry, all that kind of stuff, whilst using the Netflix show Love is Blind as a backdrop. And hopefully to get some folk out of the way, because many of us are confused by all the rules. None of us are using the same. It's not streamlined. There's not like a memo going around saying this is what we're doing now when we're dating or when we're in a couple. So we're all playing with different rules, trying to get the same, trying to get love, and we're all making a mess of it, all in the process. Okay, it's all very much like outside in and not inside out kind of work, which we're going to get into in a bit. But so this is where you come in, Bas and Priska, because not only is your article on Medium, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So not only is your article on Medium about the show Love is Blind, like your analysis on it, absolutely pertinent, which I love. It's very, very good. And it raises some question, right? I had some questions about it. So, because I was like, yes. Oh, question. Right? So, and I also got you on because when we chatted a few weeks back, I really felt like we could really talk, like there was no like what's proper, what's PC, like all the nonsense stuff around dating and love, and just could like really get down to business, to the nitty gritty. And I really love that and appreciate that. So before we dive into it, please introduce yourselves, where you live and what you do.
Yeah. All right. I'll start. My name is Bas. I'm from Holland, and I have for a very long time worked as a special needs teacher. And around 5 years, I started to work with single ladies and with couples together with Priska as a relationship and intimacy expert. And we have an online business, and that's what we actually are doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm the other half of the Love Alchemists. That's the name we're working under. I'm Priska. I'm Switzerland. We do have a different accent, as you can hear clearly. And but I'm living in the Netherlands with Bas. I moved here almost 5 years ago. And we're helping like single ladies, high achieving ladies to get the love that they are craving for, and also helping women in a relationship to like maneuver through the trigger fest that especially when deep love is happening is occurring constantly. Yeah. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, we need help. So, and from what I understood last time as well, Priska, you also use neuroscience to help women like attract big love and break patterns.
We use all kind of tools. We are also like deeply rooted in spiritual practices, but we also use like psychological tools and tools that we like developed ourselves. We just read everything. We also have, of course, the background, and we're educated coaches, and then just threw everything in and created our own special sauce. And that's how we're helping people. Mm-hmm. But of course, like this is also why the Love is Blind really got to us, because in the beginning we were like, oh my goodness, like what kind of a trash series is that? Yes. But like then we started watching it, and we just were like, oh my goodness, this is really interesting. Let's keep on watching. And we just saw, of course, everything is cut together. Everything is, like it's not how these people truly are, of course, because there's a show behind it, right? Yes. And they want to tell a certain story, but still there are so many interesting dynamics that we are observing within our clients, and we thought, okay, we have to write about that. Yep. And this is how you discovered us. So we're very excited about talking about the show today.
Yeah, and like you said, like it's obviously it's edited and all, but I find like they almost showed the archetypes of who we can all be when we're part of a dating dynamic, couple dynamic. And
that's true.
Yeah, And actually, there was something you were saying, about the show, because you said it was like, it looks so trash. And it's true, because the trailer is terrible. The description is, for me, I was just like that. I don't even watch reality shows. I was like, when I look at the description of the trailer, I was like, But then I kept hearing people talk about it, and I was like, wait a minute, I need to pay attention now. And I binged it in 2 days or something like that. I was obsessed.
Yeah.
It was so interesting.
That's true. And we had exactly the same. And I have to say that the editing team behind this show is really very, very clever, because what you said, it could become very trashy, but they were very good in highlighting the archetypes, which speak to people throughout the whole society. So it's really something that you can relate to very much.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I guess like if we were just to quickly sort of sum up what the show is, I'd love for you to describe it, because I was just going to literally pull out how you described it on your article. So I'm just going to repeat your words to you. But do you want to explain what the show? So for people who haven't watched it, obviously go pause this and go watch and come back, because that'll make sense. But even if you haven't watched it, you'll definitely get a lot out of this, because we're going to explain all the archetypes and things like that. But do you want to just quickly explain what the show is about, why it's so unique?
Yeah, it's about, in very short, it's about couples. There's a bunch of guys and a bunch of ladies, and in the first week, they meet each other in pods. And the pods are divided by a wall which they cannot see through. So they only can listen to each other's voices, ask each other questions. They cannot actually see each other. In the pod, they have to make a decision if they want to get engaged, yes or no, with one of the
dates
they are having. They can have multiple dates with multiple people, but in the end they have to choose one person they want to engage with. If there is a consent from both of them, then they come out of the pod. They meet each other in real life, and then actually the real Shazam is starting, because then they are going on a holiday together. They have to live together. They are going to meet the in-laws and the parents, the friends. And after, I'm not sure how long, I think the whole process is 41 days only. After 41 days, they are going to be married. And in front of the altar, they have to say the ultimate yes or or a no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just hearing it gives me like, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know. I'd be out after 1 week. I'd be like, this is too much pressure. It's like, it feels like it's so much, right?
It's a lot of pressure.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of pressure on these people. Yeah.
I mean, just meeting your whoever you're dating, meeting their friends already, their best friend.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, that's probably even worse than, I mean, that's as much pressure as the family, because the best friend, they chose a best friend.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So now this was like that was a great recap. So I want to go over like the main couples in the show, and I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 here. I hope I haven't forgotten any, but 6.
No, I think you're right. 6.
Yeah, 6. And so these are the 6 ones that were featured to go to the altar. Actually, when I dug a little bit deeper and listened to other stuff from like the people from the show, there were more people who made it to the altar, but they chose not to portray them.
Yeah,
that's true.
I read that too.
I was like, a little bit insulting, but that's fine.
They were so surprised. That they had so many matches, that so many people wanted to even get engaged.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, oh my goodness, we cannot feature all of them.
True, that's true. That is true, actually. That is true. So actually, it was really a success, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
And also to give context, some of what they don't really say, I think the show was filmed in 2017 and they only showed it in 2019. So the couples that are still together today have been actually together for like 2 years or something. Or 2 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
there has been... sorry that I interrupt you. There has also been a reunion, and that was... Yes. I think it was in 2019 that they recorded that one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the last episode on the show. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's so we're gonna go over those couples, and then we're gonna dive into like some of the concepts from your blog, which are super interesting. And I think what I want to, like from this episode, what I want to get is like almost like an overall picture of, how do we really get to know someone? Because that's really what the show is about. They're thrown in and find love. How do we get to know someone and make it stick, or know that it's going to stick? And then, the work that goes into it. So I want to start off with quite a controversial couple, Jessica and Mark. And so for those who haven't watched this, so Jessica is 10 years older than Mark. And the only reason why I bring this up because she can't stop talking about it, how old she is compared to him. He's 24, she's 34. She's very hot. She's beautiful. She's 34. She looks amazing anyway. But the way I dubbed this couple is like, they're kind of like the craziest to me. There's a close second, which I think we all know who it is, but they're the craziest couple, because it's almost like, how much rejection and humiliation does he need, that guy Mark? Because I think another thing about this show is they kind of point out women's being insecure about all these men that are so sure about commitment. And the women are looking like they're so insecure. But I think there's also the flip side of it is that some of these men, like, for example, Mark, it shows as a part of it that shows like, it shows to me that it also shows the men that are a bit damaged, like they are putting up with quite a lot. And obviously this is not like how do I say this? Obviously I'm trying to say this with obviously the most respect, because obviously I know they've been under so much pressure, but I'm kind of wanting to use this show as almost like to point out, dynamics, and sometimes it's not just...
I've lost you.
Yeah.
Oh, you've lost me?
Now you're back.
Now you're back.
Yeah. Do you know when you lost me?
When you said that something about you wanted to rephrase the thing about Mark, that it doesn't sound like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, because obviously I think, and like we talked about when we spoke a few weeks back, was that obviously, what we're doing now today is not to slam, shame, shame the participants, because obviously they've been through a lot, and they were very brave in showing human nature, and I have the utmost respect for it, and I'm very grateful for it. But so I guess, it's obviously important to point out the things that I want to discuss. And so, I think that what I saw between Jessica and Mark is that it's like, I feel like, she got a lot of backlash for her behavior, how she acted with him. But I find that also he was also accepting it. And he showed, I'm not sure how much if he showed that he was committed and strong in a rock, or if he was just, he didn't know how to, it feels like maybe like a lack of a bit of self-esteem in a way. Like he was taking abuse from her. She was quite abusive in a way. And again, the next couple is Damien and Gigi. Like, that's proper abuse. But like, what are your thoughts? Like, why does he keep taking her rejections? What's the deal here between those two?
It was a very interesting dynamics. I'm totally with you on that one. And of course, it's also editing, and maybe because we are also relationship coaches, that sometimes we can also look behind the things they say and look behind the emotions they show, what the actual thing is. And what I personally saw in Jessica was a lot of fear.
Oh, yeah.
That's why she constantly threw her age, because she didn't dare to make a decision, because she felt something was off. She could not totally grasp what it was, because she did like Mark to a certain extent, and because she was afraid of really being very honest and being very open about it, she actually used her age and threw it, and not only her age, she threw lots of stuff in front of his feet in the hope that he might pick it up and run with it, or make a decision based on the way she treated him, in order for her not to make a final decision. This is how I saw it. And Mark, he took a lot. I also saw or thought that he was quite a wishful thinker.
Yes.
And on the other hand, I also saw that he really totally fell for her.
Yes, he was in love.
He was really, really in love with her. And because of that, he also could take a lot from her.
I also think, of course, we saw like the main part of the show was after the engagement.
Yes.
And I think there was a very big, important part before this whole engagement thing when they were dating. And we only saw like fragments of the dating part.
And the dating, you mean like in the pods, right?
In the pods, exactly. Yep. When they couldn't see each other before they made the decision to get engaged. And I really think that they have built up a very, very strong bond. And I think that she also felt some kind of guilty about, because she wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved.
Yes.
Every human being wants to be loved. She too, obviously. And she felt that he loved her, but he probably didn't look the way she wanted him to look. Like, he was too small, he wasn't too young, he was not the guy she wanted him to be. And she felt also a bit bad about that, I think, but didn't express it that way, because still there was this connection. And he had already, because until men make a decision, they're quite wonky in their, like they can go from back to forth to run. I can't do that,
To ghosting.
Yes.
To ghosting, to whatever. But when they made their decision, mostly they have like some kind of overcome a certain threshold, and then it's almost no going back. They're like quite stoic there. Yeah. And while the women in the beginning were the ones kind of, like kind of clear, mostly after the man made the decision, that's when things get a bit for them, because then they have to look at their own feelings. And this is exactly what happened with Mark and Jessica, I think. And this is why he was and I really think he stayed and he took so much because he really loved her and he wanted to be there for her, and he wanted her to make her feel safe by just being that rock for her. Yeah.
And I think the last thing I want to add is that I think Mark also scared Jessica a bit, because he was totally different than the guys she went for. Because I think she normally went for guys like Barnett.
That's what she.
To be very honest, Barnett is a great guy, but he's messy.
Oh, he's messy.
Unstable. He's not very. He came not across very trustworthy.
No.
And this were the man that she was going for. And then you all of a sudden have a Mark who totally goes for you.
It's scary.
It scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, when she's used from the patterns that she has learned in her past, how love looks like. Of course, you don't know anything about her childhood. But when we could have a look at that, we could maybe also understand why she actually would rather go for somebody unstable than somebody like Mark, who is so clear and so stable.
Well, you see, I have thoughts about that because, okay, there's so much that you said I want to ask about. So let me just pin them, right? I was going to mention it, so we'll pin it for afterwards. But one is like you're saying about, Priska, you mentioned about the threshold, like once the guy, before the man commit, he can be quite flaky, ghosting, like you said, Baz, and things like that. But then there's like this threshold. Now I want to know how we get to that threshold. Let's pin that one. And then two, what you were saying about, that women are sure that they're more stable until the guy commits. And when the guy commits, then, we start to become unsure, like which they were showing in the show. And I found that maybe was almost a bit more true with Lauren and Cameron. Because that one which we were going to talk about. But I was wondering, with the thing with Jessica, you were saying about her background, her bringing, because I watched the show a little bit again yesterday just to refresh my memory, and she does mention about how she does explains to Mark how basically her bio dad left. He didn't want children, but then she did have. So this was same for me. My bio dad, there's lots of things around it. It's very very naughty and troublesome. But so he I have zero memory of him. But what Jessica had is she did have a stepdad who adopted her when she was 4. So she'd known him for longer, from younger, and they're very close. She calls her dad. So this is really interesting. She seems to be going for almost like for her dad. Still, right? That's the belief that has anchored stronger than looking at someone who is showing her that blood is not thicker than water. Yeah, has a stepdad that she's calls dad, who's adopted her. Now, obviously, I don't know. I've said everything about their relationship. Maybe there are issues and whatnot, but it's interesting because, like you said, with Barnett was like, oh my God, bad news, right? And you could tell Lauren, who's like a very secure person, could tell from a mile away that he was trouble. But whereas Jessica, like you said, her normal, what she feels familiar with is the bad boy, the guy who's not going to commit to her, and that to her that's love, right? And that's how a lot of us are confusing it. I know I've dealt with that too. That's why, like, see where she was coming from, but it's unfortunately so damaging, right? Like, I want to see her become happy. I think there's lots of things about her that I was annoyed in the fact that I think Mark fell for her partly because she manipulated it a little bit. Because there was a few things about her. Again, it's edited, but even the way she spoke with Barnett, how she would deny stuff, she'd gaslight them all. Like, oh no, of course, I'm very happy for you and Amber. I mean, she's very different to me. I mean, with me, you are yourself. With me, you're really yourself. But obviously, now that you're with her, I don't see it with you. Like, she was very manipulative, and she was the same with Mark.
That's true.
Yeah, she threw like poison at him, saying, oh, Barnett is so hot. I'm so attracted to him, but not you. Kind of. And then she's like, oh, you're the one I want. I love you. And it's like, it's very manipulative.
Yeah, she's a very hurt woman. Very, very hurt woman that we're looking at. Like, this is why she is like that, because it's true. I mean, like, everybody, even if it's edited, it's obvious that she has some unresolved issues going on. Like, very many, probably even unconscious pattern. Yes, because I think nobody wants to be shown like this on a show, like, and that it even in the show it comes out so much. I think that there's a lot to work on, and I think she also did some work, because when we saw her in the reunion, she could see her own patterns. Also, she was apologizing. So I think that there was a big of growth, a lot of growth happening between the show and what we saw later.
I felt for her the reunion. You could tell she's gone through hell. I think she realized
that's true. And I think you also already could see that in the show, because she absolutely manipulated quite a lot, but it's always interesting to know why people do that. And especially with her, when I was looking at her, and mostly what I do to really try to capture the actual feeling is only focus on the eyes. So when she was in a conversation with Barnett or with Mark or with Amber or with anyone, I was with her very specifically focused on her eyes, and there was so much pain
Sadness.
and sadness
Yeah.
in her eyes.
Yeah.
And she was almost always drunk too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, I would be drinking a lot too if I was shack up with a guy I wasn't attracted to. I need a lot of alcohol. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I think I have hope for Jessica. I mean, I didn't like her behavior, obviously.
No.
I did not like it. But I think she's not so far on the, like when I say she gaslights and manipulates, I think she does, but I think she's hurt. And I think there's definitely a recovery. She can turn it around. She truly can, because she's not,
True.
she's not a complete, she's not a narcissist on the end of the spectrum where there's like no coming back from it.
No.
She's not at all. And she, like you said, her eyes, by the way, how hypnotic are her big blue eyes. I mean,
really
right? It's like,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like switching. You can also see how she's switching from one, like almost two personalities. Like when she's in integrity with herself, and when she's kind of falling into this hurt child.
Yeah.
When she starts to act like this is my man, actually, and when she starts going into this manipulative state. So it's kind of these two personalities, and mostly when she's drunk, this like very hurt part in her just takes over, and then you think, oh no, please don't do that, please don't.
Yeah, and even her voice changes. She has like that baby voice sometimes.
True.
That's true.
Yeah. But I think I guess to round up Jessica and Mark, is that, like you were saying, is that I just think he just didn't do it for her physically. And I think it could be something as subtle as, I mean, for me, for example, I could be talking to someone, like now, we can't meet people. So I'm talking, I'm on the app, and I talk to people, I talk on the phone, and I may feel attracted. I may feel, because I've seen the picture, I'm like, oh, he's hot, but I know we talk, it's nice to talk. But I know full well that until I meet the person, it's not really real, because it'll be something as subtle as their scent. Like if I'm not seeing how they smell, but they smell like the natural odor, and it's not because they're dirty, it's just how they smell.
That's true.
I'm not down with it. I can't deal with it. And it could be that. It could have been something as subtle as that.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's so funny as you said the smell, because Bas and I, we also met online, because I was in Switzerland, he in Holland. And we met on Facebook, not in a dating app or anything. I remember when he first came visiting me in Switzerland, I was so afraid that I could not like his smell.
Yeah.
That's so important to me too, is the smell. It's like, it's so erotic, or a put-up, right? Yeah, I know.
When I was flying to Switzerland, I was sitting in the plane and I was praying
that I was a good smelling gal.
Everything would be okay.
Wait, because you knew she liked the scent? You knew she would.
No, but like it's this strange story, because I was very nervous, because it was the first time I met her, so I was sweating a bit, and I had been drinking quite some coffee, and I knew coffee was not really her thing, so I was just afraid that she thought I was a smelly bastard.
But it sounds like you were okay, because you're still together. So
he did smell, but his original smell was still. It is something you can't control, right? If you're just feeling attracted to this smell, and I think smell is even more important than the physical appearance sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, because it's kind of like really talking to your subconscious. If you feel like, I think it even has to do with some kind of reproductive system. If you would have good kids together, I think this is where it's all going down.
Yeah, I mean, because sex is like, it's instinct, it's hormones. So if you're not down with the smell, it'll be hard, because someone, like you said, it's not to do with physical appearance, because, I mean, for some people it matters more, but for me, it's like, it's like there's a sex appeal, that charisma, and the energy, that feeling. Yeah, that's, to me, like that's what makes someone hot, and there was
exactly
100%. Yep.
So actually, talking about hormones and things, I think Gigi and Damien are actually quite a good segue with that, because
oh my god, a lot of hormones.
Yeah.
that was intense. So Gigi and Damien, how do we define those two? So those two, they're like the second, to me, in my mind, like craziest, and again, not crazy as like diagnosed crazy, but like, I mean, entertaining couple. So there's a lot about like testing I find like there's almost like a gender role reversal, which is where there's the issues actually, I think, between those two. And then how to ask for what you want and need, and know the difference between a reasonable ask and a Gigi trigger. Which I'm going to call it. So something about those two on the surface is very abusive. It looks very abusive. She looks very much like she's playing to the cameras a lot every time she tells him off. Or, I mean, if you haven't watched the show, like she tells him that he doesn't know how to fuck her, basically. It is highly insulting to say the way she says it, and to cameras. It's how he's still around, I don't even know. But it's like there was something about her the first time they met. So they're both, I mean, to me, they're both extremely good looking. He's not like beautiful in a model way, but to me, like that's hot. The way he is very hot. And she's very, very sexy as well. But there was something about the first time she saw him in her eyes that made me think she's going to be the end of him. She's going to be the death of him, because she looked at him like she wanted to, like she wasn't sure she wanted to eat him or kill him. And she sometimes has those looks again when they fight. It's like, and it's almost like, I'm not sure if it's like something she puts on a show. It's just, and I was just like, and actually it did almost come through, because she really laid into him during the whole thing. But what I wanted to get your opinion on about those two. But some of those things that I've been wondering about there's a lot of very good things about those two as well. So I love how they always make up. She does really truly care about him. I think she really does want him, and she does realize that she is damaging the relationship. But I really liked how she handled when he explained to her that he wasn't sure if he was going to have a job when he came back, and the way she handled it, I was just like, wow, like because she could have been, supportive, but like made him feel bad about it, like, almost like too supportive, too like, you'll be okay, that kind of like almost, pity. It wasn't that. She really handled it, and he really felt that. And I think that was really an important moment. And, she even says as well that she doesn't say straight away, but she sends care packages to her family back home. Because they don't have like, it sounds like they're almost like in a lockdown situation where you can get toilet paper, that's her life. She always sends care packages. And I was just like, there's a lot of good things about her, but you tell me like why. I want to hear like, what's the deal between Gigi and Damien?
The funny thing is that these two are actually almost my favorites of the whole show. They really are. They are very men, right? That they're like a
caricature.
Yeah, a caricature of like many relationships. What is happening? Like it's just all much bigger, amplified. Everything is amplified with the two of them, but it makes so much visible that is happening in many relationships. And also, these two are the ones. I don't know. Can we get spoiler alerts?
Yeah. I mean, it's spoiler alert the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll warn them in the introduction. I'll tell them.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Because he actually, they don't get married at the end of the show, but they still are together today. So this is really admiring that they have survived so much as a couple. They have gone through so much hurt, and still because they have this love for each other.
Yeah.
And so with her, I think she is really this classical testing woman. Like she's the epitome of the testing woman.
Yeah.
And I know certainly things she does, I wouldn't call it abusive. I would just call it very intense, because she always said that. She also celebrates it a bit, that she's the Latin American woman, who's just like very passionate about things. Yeah. And she just really wants to be sure that he can hold all of her. And I think a lot of testing is unconsciously, and some things certainly are conscious. This is for sure too. But, like this stuff just happens in every relationship. And I too did test Bas. We have it's another story. We can fill our own reality show. But I too tested Bas because of past experiences. And, I just really wanted to be sure if it's going to work, because I had to give up a whole life, right, in order to be with him. And he too, by the way. But it's another story. but this is what just happens almost in every relationship. And we just have to be conscious about that we are actually doing it. We don't have to do it like Gigi, but just knowing that we are doing it. And like, I think Damien was such a man. I think of all these men in the show, he was really the man who was most masculine one, you know, just standing his ground.
He's so hot. He is.
Yes,
so...
this is what it makes it so hot.
I just wanted to climb him like a tree. Like that guy was like, I was like, he makes me into a perv. I'm telling you, he's so hot. But it's his energy, you know.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing, what also makes him incredibly masculine, contrary to, for example, Cameron, that we will talk about in the future, is that he also is connected to his feminine side.
Yes.
And he's not afraid to also tells, I don't know, I'm confused about this.
Or to cry.
Cameron cried a lot as well, of course.
Yeah.
But my God, Cameron, get a tissue.
Really was, he really was very much connected to his feminine side. And it was very in balance, which makes a guy to most women very, very, very attractive. Hot.
Yeah. The only part when I felt that he's like slipping his responsibility is when he said no in front of the altar and had said that it's because of you. I don't say because you're not ready. Instead of saying I don't feel ready to marry a woman who is like this, you know, he didn't like keep it with himself. He just put it on her. But still, they managed to work through all of this. Which is like, it really talks for the two of them, like, because to say like to have so much rejection in a relationship and so much hurt happening in a relationship and still being able to reconnect over and over again and talk things out. And you could really see in the reunion, they really love each other. There's still a very strong connection there. And I think that's amazing. I really like these two.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing also about Gigi, I think, is you very clearly could see that these tantrums she threw were actually part of her survival mode.
Yes.
And of course it was about manipulating, it was about testing, and it was about acting. And because I also see what you say, Angie, that in front of the camera, she amplified it to get a bigger effect.
Certain reaction, yeah.
But I also saw that she did it because she actually wanted to be reassured. And every time he was able to or show up vulnerable, or reassure her, you really could see the tension flood from her body. Yeah. She really melted. She really became more feminine. She really became more at ease.
Can you say that again? When did you, like, what was it that he did that put her at ease?
Just by reassuring her. And he staying, but also saying, okay, I don't know how to react on this, or crying. He really always showed up and he really reassured her. And this reassurance really, I could see it. It really made the tension in our body melt. And she really became almost this girl. And now you can hold me. And now I can surrender to you.
Yeah. Like everything, she has a big safety issue, right? Like everybody wants to feel safe. And she probably didn't feel safe in her past relationships. So she wanted to be sure, is this guy able to make me feel safe even if I'm at my worst? You know, can he still be there and just be with me in this situation? And he could. And I think this made her made her feel so safe. And
that's why she wanted to say yes.
Yeah, but you see, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I only watched a few bits and like last night to refresh, so maybe I don't remember as well. But I don't feel like that it's okay to still to be, because she went to extreme. In my mind, I feel like it was quite a lot. It's funny because I don't remember that feminine side of him. I remember him a little bit sometimes. It's funny because I actually wrote down, I wonder if it was his softness that made her so mad. Because, like the same way, like when she was talking to him about sex, how he probably wasn't passionate, but I don't know if she was referring that he wasn't passionate enough and he wasn't initiating. And initiating sex is a powerful move, and feeling desired is a very powerful feeling. So I think that she felt that he was too soft. And I think I did see that there was a little bit of like, he was also sometimes a bit passive aggressive, which again is a soft move a little bit. It's a bit like, just tell me that you're pissing me off, or that I'm pissing you off. Just don't say, well, that's what you do with your phone. Which again, we all do it. I do it too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not above it.
Yeah. Of course.
And the thing with Gigi is like, what I guess part of what annoyed me, I think, is I don't know how she managed to behave this way and still have the guy, because I don't think I could get away with her behavior. And I've also, I also do the testing. I've also done the testing in the past, especially when I was younger. And, and obviously let's not forget, I think she's 25. So she's so young. I mean, I was a nightmare in my 20s. I would not date me in my 20s. Awful. I was terrible. And I think there is that too, right? So there's also the age thing, but can we talk about that? Is it something to do with the threshold? Like, how is the guy still there for it?
I think it also has to do that we don't have to forget, that we should not forget that this is a show where they have to decide within 41 days that they are going to marry. And I really believe that because of everything that happened in the pod, and Damien felt a very, very clear yes. He was incredibly committed, and yes, this is also connected to this threshold. So he already stepped over this threshold, and I see it all around me. I even see it within myself. If I step over this threshold and I really, really commit, then I'm all in. And then I really can take a lot. I really can take a lot.
He can take a lot. And I also think, we cannot forget this, the magic, and the magic is the love. And this is where we cannot put a tag on. This is just when two people click, on a soul level. This is also something we cannot take out of the equation. It's like, it's just there. And we cannot say it's because of that or because, I don't know, like, why did he stay? Maybe it's just this magical thing that these two people had together, and this is why it made them stay.
Well, you see, I've become quite cynical. I don't know, I'm 41 now, and my motto is that love is not enough. Love is important, but it's not enough. And actually, what you're saying is almost the opposite. Almost, right?
It's just also an ingredient, and it's an important ingredient. Of course, if somebody is throwing everything, but again, we don't see the whole thing. And what made him stay in the end, we just do not know. And I think it also triggers you, Angie, maybe because it's also part of your story. That you see parts of her in you, and you think, "What the fuck? It's so annoying."
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's the thing, is like, I understand where she's coming from. I 100% understand where Gigi's coming from. And I almost understand that. I felt that chemistry that they feel. I get it. Like, I mean, there's a really strong polarity between those two. She's super feminine, and he's very masculine in his, obviously, he's got a soft side as well. But yeah, how do they build this? Let's actually talk about that now. Like, how, because we were referring to the pods, right? That's when, because they all talk about this on the show. They had this connection in the pod. They build this, especially the guys. The guys are all about this emotional connection. Like, and like all of a sudden the guys are all talking about it. And so, can you explain to us, like, what is the emotional connection? How do we build it? How do we know the guy is feeling that? Because a lot of us can be very fooled about it, or feel, or making mistakes. Right? So how do we know this? What's that thing they talk about?
Yeah, that's a very difficult one, because how do we really know someone? Not actually the same question. How do you really know yourself? Lots of times you think you know yourself, but then there can come a situation, and then you act in a certain way, and afterwards you think, what the fuck was I doing there? I don't know this part of myself at all. Yeah. And it's the same. It's the same with falling in love with someone, and it's not so much about how do we really know someone. It's about, are we able to go into the trust and to surrender and to let go of control and to really see it as a work in progress. Because in the end, you can only trust on your instincts. You can only trust on your feeling. And if this says yes, that doesn't mean that there won't come shit up later in the relationship.
But the thing is, what you have already talked about is these pods, and there's something very magical about the pods, because Bas and I also had these pods, because
distraction.
Like when we just communicated via Messenger, we just had this writing that kind of where we could express each other, ourselves, and get to know each other. And there's no distraction. You don't have to think about work. You don't have friends, that want things from you, or family that are meddling with things. It's just you and this other person. And you have, because they had to make a decision, so there was some kind of a pressure thing going on, and with us too, because Bas was married, so there was very clear when there was a lot of pressure on this relationship from the beginning. And same with them. So you cut through the shit. You get to the point. You ask the difficult questions. You talk about your vulnerable stuff. And I think this is what is lacking in nowadays society, which is, there's so many swipes. When you get home, you can just swipe again, and then you have another date. There's so many options, and in these pods, things are just reduced, and you really could start seeing a person. And we all have an incredible hunger for being seen and heard, each and every one of them. And this happened in these pods. So when they stripped down, when they really showed who they were, they talked about like their biggest pains and fears and also the biggest dreams, everything they shared. And this is such an immensely bonding thing. When you feel like, oh, this person lets me in, truly in, and I let this person truly in. And if we can do that, there's something so magical about that. And we all are walking around in this world with such thick walls up, mostly, because we don't want to get hurt again, or maybe he's ghosting on me again, or who knows, maybe, we can start comparing, because the other girls are so much more beautiful, or all these things. And in these pods, there was nothing of that. There was just two souls meeting and connecting.
And there was it's also a difference in pace, of course, because who on the first date in real life asks about what's your biggest fear? How have you been brought up? What kind of patterns do you have? You never talk about that until you are like a couple of dates later. And in these pods, because there was no distraction, what Priska said, it was a total strip down. Actually, they were standing naked in front of each other without seeing. How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
And the vulnerable part is the secret ingredient. And this is missing in nowadays society a lot.
And what does it really mean to be vulnerable? Because there's a difference between being vulnerable, and I think a lot of people are confusing it with being a train wreck, right? So, I don't get me wrong. We're all out here. We're all train wrecks, trying to look like we've got shit together, or stuff together. But I think there's a difference between, verbal purging on someone else and using someone else as an emotional punch bag constantly. I'm not saying we don't do it every once in a while, because we all, like you say, we're all human. We all forget ourselves every once in a while, and we will make mistakes, and those needs to be forgiven as well. But I think there's a difference between that, a complete, just using and abusing the other person for your own therapy, and then being vulnerable, which I think Lauren shows really well. Actually, Lauren and Cameron show that really well.
That's true. That's true.
When she's facing her doubts, so they're like the healthiest couple. Which, by the way, now I'm like, I was completely like rooting for them, but now I'm a little bit bored of them. Like, it's like, okay, we get it. We're just so normal. We fucking get it. We get it. That's fine. Like, it's a bit much now. But and I guess that's more speaking of how I feel than a reflection of them, obviously. But I think, like, so Lauren she had a lot of anxiety just before, like him meeting her dad.
Yeah.
And then her committing him to marriage. But I think what she did really well, and he did too, is that she knew she was feeling all of these stuff, and she was confused and anxious and not sure, but never, again, maybe it's in the edit, maybe she did shout at him, who knows. From the edited version is that she kept it together. She was very calm, true. And she made a difference between her feelings and him. She made she made a discernment. And that was very, very smart. Again, someone that's very self-aware.
She has done a lot of work already.
And that's the distinction between being vulnerable and being a train wreck, because she's mature about it and she takes responsibility for her own feelings, her own limiting beliefs, her own patterns, and she can share that. She can bring that across to another person, and that's about maturity. Mm-hmm. And if you are not able to do that and throw around your deepest pains and using someone else as an emotional punchback, then you are more in the league of being a train wreck. So that's for me the very clear distinction between the two things you just mentioned, Angie.
It's about responsibility for your own train wrecked stuff, and not like hiring the other to solve it.
Exactly, and that's the difference between Gigi and Lauren.
That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm sure Lauren and Gigi probably have a lot of the same feelings at times. The way they express it and handle it is so different. I think Lauren is obviously a bit older than Gigi, but still young. I think she's late 20s. I don't know how old she was, but she's still young.
It doesn't have so much to do with age sometimes,
Yes.
But I really think she also has, I think she has quite a big business. And I think she has a lot of responsibility on her shoulders already at that young age, Lauren. And so I think it also had to do with that.
Yeah, she knows how to present herself. She's composed, she's eloquent.
And funny. She also knows how she uses humor to work through stuff. And I don't say that this is better than the other, like, for example, Gigi. It's just different. They're just at different stages. But I think this doesn't mean that Damien and Gigi didn't have vulnerable meetings in the pods, because I think when you cannot see each other and you just talk from the heart, it's really when you talk from the heart and you don't need somebody else to solve things, that's when you're vulnerable. When you share dreams, when you share wishes, what you want to build, and I think like not seeing each other really helps with that. It's a funny thing, because when this visual thing is off, we really have to focus more on ourselves and like really on our feelings. And then we don't go like, how can I look the best, or how can I, present myself the best way? It's more about how can I be truthful, because also you want the other one to really know you, because you're getting married, something's at stake there. So you don't want to pretend to be somebody else. You don't want to wear a mask in this situation.
Yeah. And
so this is helpful too. Yeah, sorry.
No, absolutely. No, sorry. But I agree with you with the audio, for example, like just so that's why the podcast, there's no video, I know podcast, people, they do videos, but I feel like I can listen better and I can be more in the moment and I can feel when there's a connection.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was like looking at you two, I'll be so distracted. I'd be like, and I'm like, oh, and you may be picking up on things, expression in the face, which may completely be irrelevant, that's not, if you're just picking up on too many things, it's too distracting. But I think you were saying something about listening to ourselves, being aware, and when we are falling for someone, or we have is like, I mean, correct me if I misunderstood, but when we're falling for someone, like we have what we have. Almost the only thing we have to go by is like our intuition or instinct, because we need to know ourselves, but it takes time to get to know someone else anyway. It takes a lifetime sometimes. So but then this is my question, right? Is because if, for example, Jessica went based on her feelings, she'd have gone for someone like Barnett, which is completely wrong for her. Because he doesn't want her, actually, in the first place. So that's number one reason it'd be wrong for her. And so sometimes of our intuition, I think this is where sometimes we have to be careful, because we confuse sometimes what feels familiar. And I'm talking it from the point of view of like from with Jessica, because I get that. What someone, it took me a long time to realize, but once I realized it, I couldn't unsee it anymore. I was so aware of it. But I used to confuse feelings of anxiety around someone, feeling not good enough, with passion. I used to think that's passion, that stuff, because that's what I knew about. That's the only thing I knew, and it was so familiar to me. I didn't even realize it. Until I realized it, and I started to like change. I had to change drastically how I dated. I had to change, completely. And I got help. I had like a matchmaker who were like people who were like healthy, and we were in a different place. And I had it took me over a year. They went on a lot of dates. And it was so boring at first. I was like, oh my God, they're boring. Oh my God, they're boring. No attraction. And then all of a sudden it clicked. But it was great, because I was like, oh, that's how a real man is. That's what a man is, not a boy. And they were all legal. When I say a boy, they were not underage, but like, you know what I'm saying?
I fully understand what you're saying. I know the struggle.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I was, then all of a sudden it clicked. I started then to go on more dates, and I think about a year and a half until it clicked for me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when the man steps up, I was like, gosh, that's hard.
Yeah.
To me, he wants to be there, he wants to see me, he wants to talk to me. All of a sudden, that became hard. And that's when I knew I turned the corner.
Changed.
Yeah. And I totally hear what you say, and I totally understand, and it's actually true what you say. And it's also both situations you just mentioned are about trusting on your intuition, because when you were going out with boys, it was also because this is what you needed in that moment, and you trusted your intuition. And later on, you started to feel something was off. Then you reached out for help. Then you matured in that specific area in your life. But it was all based on the things that you felt.
Yeah.
But you know, so go on.
No, I just want to say, like Jessica, it's not like she has something. I mean, like maybe she is looking for her dad. This is why she keeps attracting unavailable men, that she keeps actually wanting unavailable men. But of course, something is not working with that. That's when you go to a coach or to a therapist and you look at these patterns so that you can reframe these things, so that you can really break through these patterns and attract a man in the end that is really good for you.
Yeah.
And that makes you really happy. So this is always the barometer. You can always see, is this relationship making me happy or not? If not, then you have to look at these patterns.
Yeah.
What kind of men are your partners are you attracting? Or what are you repeating in the relationship you're in? And then you can really, this is where the work starts, This is where we can look at feelings are actually the guiding force in our lives.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because, chatting with you both and hearing you, your responses, I just realized actually, because I think Baz said something about your intuition was always there. Actually, it was there, because had I been more self-aware, I would have known that what I was feeling was anxiety, but I didn't realize it was anxiety. I didn't realize I was feeling uncomfortable. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But my body was telling me, my subconscious was telling me, but I didn't know how to. I was translating it wrong. Exactly.
Yes.
So actually, your intuition, you're saying you're right, is always there, but you have to learn the language. And
that's true.
Yes.
It's life-changing when you do. And I remember it was actually Catherine who was on the show, Catherine Bejanayan. She's a dating relationship coach and a therapist, all of that. She's the one who told me about this. She's the one who pointed it out to me. And the minute she said that, I was just like, I look back at all my previous relationships, dating, whatnot, all the flings and stuff. All of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I don't want any of them anymore. And again, this is not an insult on the guys. There's just one right for me, and I wasn't right for them. And it could have been a timing issue as well, because you're messed up at some point, right?
Yes.
But we were so not good for each other, and it's liberating.
Yeah, that's true. And you also, between brackets, needed them, or quote unquote needed them to become aware about that.
Yes, they were teachers. I think every relationship we were in our past had a reason. There's nothing in vain. Everything happens for some reason. No, nothing.
And one of the reasons why I went to see her was because I realized that I used to say I'm always with emotionally unavailable men. They look available, they're single, they're into it, they're very much into it at the beginning, and then bam, I do something and that's it, they're out. But what I realized was wait a minute, the common denominator is the emotional unavailability. And I was like, wait, I'm the common denominator. And I was just I realized actually I don't want to commit to anyone. I was the one I was emotionally unavailable myself. I was so focused on being self-sufficient and independent all the time, not asking for what I needed, not asking for what I want. And that's something that she pointed out to me as well. She was like, you're not letting them do anything for you, help you. You're robbing them away from that feeling that you get when you cook a meal for them. When you cook a meal for them, how do you feel? When you do something for them, how do you feel? I'm like, I love it. Well, you're not giving them that. And that's what
that's true. It has all to do with the femininity part, right? Stepping into the receiving. And I know it's also for our clients. It's one of the hardest things because they're high achieving, successful women. They have everything together. But then all of this in this dating part, it just doesn't work. And it has often to do with the part that they are so much in their masculine, leading, independent energy. It's almost impossible for them to open up to, let a guy carry their bags, grocery bags, or
yes,
letting them doing something. And I had exactly the same issue as well. I was like, I can do that. I've been doing that all my life, so I don't need anyone for that. But to see, okay, I can just, let it, like, I just can let him do it because it's nice for him and also for me, actually, not because I need it, because it's just nice.
And I'm still working on it. I'm still having I'm like, okay, let them.
Yeah.
But it's so nice not having, Judah, actually, that's funny you mentioned the grocery bag, because actually for years, even before I realized this, for years, that's the one time I feel the most single. It's when I go home having to carry my shopping bag.
Yeah.
But guess what? I got a solution. I got one of those like trolleys, like the grannies get. That's why I put it like that. That's not very single.
That's so good.
Yeah, I got this trolley.
That.
But yeah, that's the one problem. But before I had a trolley, I was like, oh, it's so heavy. I just wish I had a man who could help me carry this.
Yeah.
So by the way, I'm conscious of time. I'm still okay for time. Are you okay for time?
Yeah,
good.
It's good for us.
The kids are silent. Everything's silent.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I wanted to go into this is fascinating, by the way. Thank you so much. I wanted to go into Kenny and Kelly.
Yeah.
That couple, I believed in them. I think a lot of us believed in them. There's some Facebook group who are like, some people are depressed over it, I think. And I mean, literally, like, there's so many memes about them. But it's like, so Kenny and Kelly, the way I describe them is like, it's the fine line between a man being sensitive and losing sex appeal. Between a man being sensitive and losing sex appeal. And then there's this. So because the deal with them is that they never had sex. I mean, they did other stuff, she says. She's been saying in interviews since then. But they were like, I mean, they look so perfect together. What happened there?
What happened there? That's a good one, because I actually was surprised as well. Mm-hmm. I thought she would also say yes in the end. I think the dynamics between them were too safe, and there was a lack of polarity. That's why lots of people thought, oh, they are the perfect couple, because there was never something off. They had never had an argument. They were always sitting, gazing lovingly in each other's eyes, holding hands. So it almost was too perfect. And I really believe that a good, healthy, dynamic, energized relationship also needs this grinding sometimes, also needs this polarity. And I really think that they were too much on the same level. There was too much of a balance. And he didn't take the lead. He never took the lead. She was also lots of times more in her masculine energy. So it was just too safe, too bro and sis.
Can you explain what you mean by she was in her masculine energy at times? What do you mean?
Because she didn't let him lead, because in the end she was not like very forceful in doing it, but she always controlled the direction anything went in. He was always following her. He was always following her lead. Yes. And I think there was because I think she really needed a man who stepped up more and who really showed her, okay, now you don't think about anything. I'm going to tell how it is. And he never did that. And that's why she always, in a very loving, almost girly, giggly kind of way, she always created how do you say that? The scenario.
Yeah. She did it in a very graceful way, because if that was me in her shoe, I would have been tagged a bitch, because that's exactly I agree with you what you're saying, because he didn't take the lead. And there's a pivotal moment where they're both laying in bed and they're talking about sex. Okay, they talk so much about sex; it's too much. Anyway, before having had any sex, is what I'm saying. So they talk about it, and so he says to her, "Look, obviously we haven't had sex yet. I know how I feel about it, but how do you feel about it?" Yeah. And then she obviously again takes the lead, explains. And the thing is, I love, I also understand her feelings around sex. Like I'm on board with what she was saying. But I think there was a lack, and what I didn't feel was honest from him. Oh, not maybe honest. Yeah, actually not honest, was because he was almost being too much of what I would call when men are trying to be feminists. and they're misunderstanding that thing. They're really misunderstanding, and it kind of, to me, is a bit creepy and is not real. And I'm going to explain this now. Is so when he says, I know how I feel about it, about us not having sex, but how do you feel about it? And then she tells him, and then he just goes, okay, that's cool. Which, yes, you should always be consenting adults, 100%. But what he lacked in saying is that he should have owned up his feelings, and he never owned up his feelings about it. He was clearly frustrated about it. And I think she felt it. And I think, like you said, she was always leading. And when you are always leading the man, you feel like his mother.
Yeah.
And it's very unattractive. And then you have to be the one that's bossy. Like, I would become bossy pants, and after 2 or 3 days, I'm out, because I'm like, I don't like being that way. I like to be in my feminine and follow the guy. And it's not in a patriarchal way. I mean, but it's like just letting him being the man, because it's fun. And the thing is, if I don't feel, it's that thing about trusting in someone's leadership. It's like I cannot be in my feminine if I feel like the guy's going to drive me into a ditch instead of to a destination. And that's exactly maybe how she felt. And that's also why she's not going to feel safe in bed, because, like she was saying, she had issues with climaxing in the past.
Yeah.
And again, I hear that completely. And I think part of it is because if you can't trust the guy, if the guy doesn't have you, is not holding you in everyday life in a way, the same way that you're holding your man, but in your feminine way, is that she cannot let go, because in that moment when you have sex, you're in that most vulnerable part of you. You cannot defend yourself. And the intruder comes in the door. What are you going to do? You're the expert, and you need to feel the guy's there to catch you. And there's something very, and again, same like in same-sex relationship, is whoever has that role in that moment, right? It's almost like it doesn't matter about like gender, but it's like in a straight couple, man and woman, that is an important factor. And it's the same way, like the man needs to feel held by his woman, I think, in the sense that she is his safe space, Like when he's vulnerable, is she going to attack him? She's going to say, oh, what are you being big crying baby for? Like with Cameron, another woman had been like, oh, for fuck's sake, you're always crying. Stop crying, that's true. Right? Yeah. That would have been unsafe for the guy. So the woman is also leading, like there's a safe, she's also has a role to play in holding the man.
Of course,
And that's where the imbalance went, I think, for them, because she was always holding it, and he wasn't. He was like there for the ride, like a little, a little bit like a puppy, and that's a turn off.
Yeah, it's totally a turn off, and it's also the fact that they talk so much about sex. It's also a way to hold somehow control over it.
Yeah.
And when I hear someone say, and I don't want to bash or put people down, but when I hear a woman, for example, say that she has a hard time reaching a climax, that's also about control.
Yes,
and not about being able to surrender to something. And instead of talking so much about it, he for example, just should go stand behind her and start kissing her in her neck in a certain way, or start rubbing her in a certain way.
Yes.
And this whole talk, if she consents, of course.
Yes.
This is a very important part.
Yeah.
And I think we in the end we don't know exactly what it was, because maybe she too was just not attracted to him sexually.
Yep.
This can totally be also just a reason.
Yep.
Yes. And I think also, of course, we are talking now a lot about gender things, and there's so much truth in that. Of course, it can also be totally the other way around if it fits both couples, like both parts of the couple. But I think there was really with this lack of polarity happening, and you cannot say, like, it can also be she could also have just stepped more into her feminine, then he automatically would have been more in his masculine. But I think both were just wishy-washy. They were not both like actually manning or womaning up to their needs and what they actually wanted. And I think both were actually lying to be kind. Both were very, very kind to each other.
I like to make that distinction, and it's only semantic, but I think they were being nice because kindness would have been, to be honest, that's the kind of thing to do.
True.
And kindness, tough love is kind sometimes. Sometimes you need to be caring and loving and a cushion and a safe space, but you need to not disrespect yourself and the other. Then you have to be
100%.
kind.
I just want to say there's this lack of passion, because everybody wanted to be kind and do the right thing. It was a very intellectual relationship. There was no emotions, there was no passion. Like, we hold hands and we kiss, but it was never from like this ravishing feeling, I want to be there, or I want to, it was very intellectual. And I think because they saw that they would be actually good, or because they were thinking about being a good couple, but they didn't feel it. And I think what's his name? Kenny wasn't feeling it either. I think it was also, he was in his head, because when he now talked about his new girlfriend in the reunion, there was so much more passion than ever in, like, when he talked about Kelly things.
I think it's very much in the head. So there was that's the thing, isn't it? You can talk all you want, but if it's not there, it's not there, right?
It's not there.
It's true.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to say is that he lacked honesty in expressing his desire, but she also lacked honesty in just telling him, sorry, baby, but I'm not physically attracted to you.
Yes.
You're a kind guy, but you're not my guy. Yeah.
And I think a lot of, like we're saying, a lot is to do with energy. It's like, because even, he hasn't got, from what I can remember, he hasn't got the same, he doesn't impose in the same way as a Barnett or a Damien or Cameron, right? They're quite tall, broader guys, strong guys. But it's like, if you look at someone like, I don't know if you know these comics, like, and then we'll go to the next couple, but there's someone like called Kevin Hart and Cat Williams. I don't know if you know them. They're quite short, but they haven't. So they're very, very, they're very successful comics in the US, stand-up comics. And Kevin Hart is for sure, he's quite of a short stature. I think he's shorter than me for sure. Cat Williams, I think he's also known to be quite short. But they have a charisma, they have a masculinity, they have an energy that was out of them. I don't think anyone would give a shit about how tall they are. So like next to a Barnett, next to a Damien, they totally measure up, if not more, because they have this strong... They're just really very, they know what they want. They own their flaws. They're very, charismatic. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, I think even like, so with Kenny, if you just own up, it's like, it's to do with that energy, the charisma. It's like being honest, right? That's a big turn on. Like owning up your quirk. You go, look. Yeah, again, all with consent, like, obviously, but it's like there was things he could have done.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
He was consenting all the time. They were kissing a lot. They were always touching. So it wasn't because she wasn't feeling him completely.
No.
There was a lack somewhere.
Yeah, there was a lack. And I think, again, it's very important to also know there's nothing wrong with him or her. They were just not a match. Like, because there are women who exactly love that, because I think he's very considerative. He's very soft. He's very, like, sensitive. And there are women who love that and need that. And, they're exactly what they need. Like, and it's all, again, about the matching. Like, just having the puzzle piecing fitting together. And of course, like, from watching from the outside, when we want to say, create the perfect man or the perfect woman in sense of polarity, of course, then he would have had to man up and, like, be this and be that. But again, we cannot forget people are as they are with their backgrounds, with everything. And it's about, like, for you or for me, he would definitely be not the good match neither, because there would be a lack of polarity too. I know women who would exactly need such and want such a guy,
Yeah, absolutely. I think to me, he was a bit too politically correct. Personally, my choice. Not for other people, massive turn on. They're like, marry me tomorrow. For me, I'd be like, I need you to show you're a bit inappropriate at times too, because sex and love is not PC. It's messy. Everything's messy. No control. It's too pretty for me. There's too much. But again, just not for me, that's all. But
totally.
And maybe in 10 years he'll be a perfect guy for me. I'll be like, that's what I want.
Maybe, you don't know.
Maybe he has been the perfect fit all along. We just didn't know yet because we were looking for other things,
Exactly. I didn't see
my past.
All my damage, I didn't see through that kind of stuff. I kind of want to go into Amber and Barnett. I had Diamond and Kelton first, but I don't know. So much with those two. But Amber and Barnett, okay, so I guess for those who haven't seen, so Barnett was like what I would call like the bad boy, typical bad boy of the show. Like on the show, during when they were in the pod, when they weren't seeing each other, he was basically promising the same stuff to 3 different women, including Jessica, right? So there was Jessica, Amber, and a third one, which I can't remember her name, but she didn't make it together. But he was promising the same. All of them thought they had a special relationship to them, by the way. They all thought they were special, even though they'd heard that he was like talking to other girls in a similar way, they all thought, well, the girls are deluded. I'm the one who's winning, right? I'm the special one. So again, manipulative. But he's not a bad guy, but he's definitely bad.
No, he's not.
I think he's a classical charmer. He has, I think also in real life out there, he had a lot of girlfriends, a lot of women who wanted him, and he knew that he, what to do, which buttons to push.
But when he keeps saying, sorry to interrupt you, but like,
it's okay.
Then when he say, but when he keeps saying, I can't help it if I build if I build connection with people or something like that, and I was like, oh come on now, Barnett. There's a difference between that and have some self-control, like
How he always came across to me was that he actually was a boy who learned some tricks. And he exactly knew when to say certain things because he knew how women would react on that. But in the end, he was just, in my opinion, he was not very mature. And that's also the reason why I think he chose in the end for Amber, because she was the only safe choice for him. She was, in my opinion, also not very mature. And therefore, being with her, he did not need to man up himself.
Yeah, I guess she made him feel manly. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, exactly. They were very childlike, and they didn't want to. They even talked about it. They didn't want to grow up. Both, we have to be these kids, and I think she also made him feel safe and free. And for men, it's very important how women make them feel, right? Because this is where they're basing their yeses on. How does a woman make me feel? And even if we always think women are the ones who feel so much, in the end, we're the thinkers. We're the ones thinking everything through till the end, while the men are much more focused on the feelings in the now.
Yeah, I think the difference, because she said he wanted to feel safe, or she made him feel safe, I think the difference between a boy and a man is that a man wants to feel safe with a woman, but the boy wants to feel this edge, this adventure, this danger. Yeah. And that's why I feel that Barnett is more of a boy, because he actually said, you also mentioned it in our the chat we had before, that he was afraid of Amber. But this also made him more horny for it almost, because this was talking to his boy part.
That's true.
This is what boys want. And they are still together, I think, but I'm not sure if they will be the real deal in the end.
I think when they've sexed it out as much as they could, probably that'll be an issue. I wonder when you said something interesting about the difference between a boy and a man, and I wonder if him, like you said, like the boy, like the edge that he makes, like he feels scared of her. I think maybe unconsciously that is what he can use when he then wants to leave her.
Yeah,
that's the bit that he's gonna say. You're too crazy, you're too wild. Like, because she's very honest. There's things I appreciate about her, that she's honest about her her debts. She tells him about things that is very hard to tell someone.
True.
Especially when she spends how much money she spends on makeup, and and I was like, he's gonna use that as a no. He's gonna use that in his like not to commit. But do you think that? You're talking about the ego and how men feel around women. Do you think that actually for Barnett, or actually for men, what's the difference between stroking their ego? Because, when you stroke someone's ego, like she was saying, that's not, like, because he can be himself around her, which obviously is very important. You want to be yourself around someone.
Yeah.
But how do you know the difference between feeling comfortable to be yourself and then being around someone who knows who can push back on you and not let you, like, be kind, basically, like give you a bit of tough love sometimes, like telling you behind closed doors, so respectfully, behind closed doors, say, listen, I'm on your side, but that kind of behavior, you need to be like, watch out for this. So maybe help someone see things a bit differently, helping them evolve if you can see blind spots. Or is that completely wrong thing to do? I don't know. But like, there's a difference between feeling comfortable, but also being with someone who's not just there to stroke your ego.
Yeah. I think, like, if you only go for people who stroke your ego, then you are not very much aligned in your own truth, in your own power, in your own strength. Because then you need someone else to make you feel a certain way. And I think it's about a combination between somebody stroking your ego, because it's just nice if somebody says what they like about you and what they love about you. And on the other hand, that you don't especially need that, because that you are a person on your own, and you can also feel these things when there's not someone around who strokes your ego constantly. So it's really about the balance between reaching out and getting it, grasping it from the outer world, and really knowing you have it within, and also can go to these resources within.
And the tough love part that you've mentioned, I think this is the growth part, because every relationship needs two parts, and one is the safety part and the one is the growth part, which is more
the
grindy or adventure or whatever, like out of your comfort zone kind of part. And we need both. We need both. So we need the safety in sense of also reassurance that, do you still love me? Do you like me? Do you adore me or whatever? But also the part of, like, okay, this is BS. Let somebody call you out on your BS and mirror stuff back, and still have the safety part. These are these two ingredients that it needs to have a thriving relationship. And I think both is needed. Yeah.
So do you reckon that with Barnett and Amber, that's the tough love stuff is missing?
But we don't know. That's the thing. Of course, we don't see everything, because I also think they have gone, because they're still together. So they were 2 years since everything. Then they also saw the whole Jessica thing happening. And I don't know what happened in this, what kind of shit has been brought up through that part. Yeah. So of course we don't know, because I also thought that actually Barnett especially was he looked more mature in this reunion thing. Yeah. It's more just an energy thing that I picked up. But what it exactly, it's so hard to say, because of course you can never really look into a relationship when the cameras are off, when Barnett is just Barnett. It's so hard to say.
But you know what? Oh, sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, go on.
Okay. No, please go on. It's so interesting what you're saying. So that's why
I just think we didn't see so much of this part before camera, because he's more the guy, he swallows shit down, when she talked about stuff that didn't work and that she was just drinking wine, and he was constantly working, for the wedding or whatever. You could see that something was off, but he would not talk about it.
Oh yeah. You could tell he kept drinking that beer when he was.
Yes. Exactly. You could tell,
like Jessica,
swallower. Yeah, exactly. And this might become a problem if he keeps swallowing. Same as, by the way, Cameron. I think he's also a swallower. Who is not like somebody who's like talking about the feelings, so much more like making it look good and like just focusing on the positive.
It good for his lady.
Exactly, make everything nice and So this can become a problem later in the relationship if it just keeps on.
It's interesting you mentioned the reunion and Barnett looking like he matured a bit, and I agree. But I think Amber hadn't changed her behavior, because she really laid in on Jessica. And actually, because when they replayed, which is obviously cringeworthy to watch, because all of a sudden she was face to face watching Barnett's behavior and how Jessica and the other girl weren't making it up. Obviously, they all acted on it differently. Yeah, but they weren't crazy thinking that they were chosen in a way. They weren't crazy, really. He was promising that he was manipulating his words. He was a bit sneaky about it. And so I think instead of Amber facing her guy or facing herself, realizing to be a bit more humble, to go the other women, I was maybe a bit hard on them. And Jessica, obviously, she was sneaky as well. Don't get me wrong. If she's my guy, I would have been so mad as well. But I think what we saw in the reunion was Amber laying it all in on Jessica, when actually half of it was supposed to go to Barnett. And you could see Barnett almost distancing himself from Amber. I think he looked embarrassed of her behavior because she hadn't changed. She was still out of control, shooting off like a pistol, like out of the blue.
That's true.
Very strongly, and I think that is what his family saw. That can we talk about when she met his family?
They didn't like her that much. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Chirpings, tumbleweed going. They were like, oh my goodness, no, please.
And she keeps always trying to put herself between him and his family, because she's like, who are you gonna choose? Are you gonna choose them or me? you know.
Yeah.
And I think I understand when she says that, but you can't ask someone to choose you over the family. It shouldn't even be a choice. You should be making them make that choice. If you don't agree with them, with their family, for example, if they're too conservative for you, keep your opinions to yourself, because what you do, you got to see them twice, 3, 4 times a year, whatever, and then you go home. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
You know, why?
I think she was afraid. I think she was afraid that he could say no because of his family. So it was her safety. Yeah. She wanted to be sure that he's on her page. And again, I think he's like the epitome of the avoider. You know, he's like avoiding speaking about things. He's just being silent when things are being asked, or looking away, or like kind of finding a way around things. I think that's the part where it could be tricky in their relationship, because she's just blaring out everything, and he's just.
What was astounding to me was that in all the other couples, you got more of a multicolored picture, because they showed conflict, they showed vulnerability, they showed sensuality. And with Amber and Barnett, it was so one-dimensional, because I never got even one piece of vulnerability between the two of them. It was always about conditions, about I need that from you, about these are my standards, and it was never about really showing us vulnerable and really connecting in a vulnerable, emotional way.
Well, actually in the pods, but again, that vulnerability can be the condition. That's true. Actually, now you mentioned conditioning. Actually, that was actually quite a beautiful moment between. I keep wanting to call him Mark, but between Amber and Barnett. Mm-hmm. Because when she opens up about her abortion and how she said, she got into quite into a depression about it, and she, and it was a decision she made based on the other person, whatnot. Anyway, but the way he handled it, you could feel he was feeling her, because he got a bit overwhelmed, like he almost wanted to cry because he felt what she was talking about.
That's true.
But he navigated it really well, because he didn't go into this, what could have easily gone into a very annoying reaction of him feeling sorry for her.
Yeah.
He felt her. He felt her feelings, but he didn't pity her. And that's a fine balance of maturity to do that. Maybe it's part of his avoidance. Maybe that's kind of helped. But I think he handled it so well. And again, I think she's good at being vulnerable in terms of just saying, that's my financial. She was obviously a bit scared to say it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's definitely maybe a lack in them, is maybe missing something.
Yeah.
But I think I want to talk about when they went to visit his family, because I want to quote his brother. That was freaking gold.
His brother.
Oh my God, his brother. I want to quote. Okay, wait. So, because can I just say, obviously, I don't know what's going on for him, whatnot, and he may be like working 17-hour shifts. I don't know what's going on, but the guy looks so unhappy and bitter. Like, Barnett's brother called, Barnett's brother called Mark, but he's married, and his wife, by the way, kept throwing dagger at Amber, because Amber, obviously, with her perky breasts, and she looked really hot and whatnot. She just did not like him for whatever reason. Like, she did not like her. So Mark, the brother, and I quote, he was saying to Barnett, he was trying to like making him like not do this. I think they were not happy about this, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He was saying, okay, and I've written this down. He says, marriage is hard work. It's about forgetting yourself. Put the other person before your needs. Are you willing to give up everything for this person? Everything? And I was just like, oh my God, somebody give him the number to a shelter. Like that.
I was not
helping.
That's so true.
Oh my goodness, he should not give any advice.
It was the baddest advice ever.
He should
the worst.
Yeah, we don't want this relationship.
No.
What the hell are you living? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to be marrying a vacuum. What do you mean give up everything for me? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, that is so bad. Like, obviously, I mean, it sounds like an abusive, again, some kind of level, like it's self-abuse almost. Like, I'll give up everything about myself. Like, he's so exhausted. I mean, I think we need to start a GoFundMe page for him to like airlift him out of that. I mean, it is crazy. Or maybe we need to airlift out the wife, because obviously, if that's what he thinks, she's obligated to be running by that law as well.
That's true.
Or maybe this is just what he said to make him very, very scared, to not take her as his wife. Maybe.
No, I really think I really think he is that man, because he really looked like
exhausted.
an empty
he looked exhausted.
void.
Yeah. And I think they had some bad. I don't know, like, how do you say that, a role model, like when they were kids, that they learned that if a man takes a woman, he has to give himself up. And I was thinking, of course, people make then like fun of like marriage being a prison and your life ends. And I think, well, who wants to marry then? I mean, seriously.
I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. That's terrible if you see it like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he was a known story. We also thought I want to see his reality show.
We were like gobsmacked when he said it. Then we were looking at each other with our.
Just say that.
I know. It's mental.
Yeah.
Should we? We're gonna go into Cameron and Lauren, and obviously those not because they're so healthy. There's not that much to be saying about them.
No, that's true.
But
they were out of the show very quickly.
But I guess because we're talking about the show, maybe just quickly touch on Damon and Carlton. And I think about those two is very much about owning your stuff, let the other person process it, not attacking and vilify the other. Because he almost did like a Trump move, Yeah. It felt, to me, it was very much like, not letting her. So I guess to explain, like, so they engaged. They don't go till the end. They don't get married, but they engaged. He tells us as the audience that he's sexually fluid, but he never brings it up to her. And he always says, when he tells us at the audience, says, he doesn't want to, he's afraid to tell her because he's always had, a lot of issues. People don't accept him. And it's obviously something that he's, struggled with, like in terms of the response he's had. It sounds like it hasn't been easy for him to come out with it, and obviously, I really feel for that. I really feel him on that one. That can't be easy. But where I kind of lost him a little bit, where I was kind of like, I logged out with him was, so the story is that they get engaged, they're all happy-dopey, and then he starts to become very passive-aggressive, throwing very snarky comments the whole day. She picks up on it. And then she's like, look, talk to me. Like, you're not being yourself. Like, I'm worried. You can talk to me. She's being very loving and open. And then he tells her. Obviously, that's like, it's an important part to say to someone,
of course,
and
it's also the way how he did it, because he actually,
how he did it. Yes.
The way he told it, he actually gave her immediately a baseball bat, and he actually said, slap me with it now, because he was so incredibly in the victim mode, like, oh, this has happened my whole life. If he would be, and I actually don't like the word, but I use it to make something visibly clear as well. He actually should also man up about it. Just sit down, just talk. This is how I am. This is what I have been doing. I have had difficulties with it because I had some remarks from people who didn't understand. But this is how I am. And he made it into such a big drama fest.
Also because he didn't tell earlier, this gave it much more heaviness. If you had just told her from the beginning, if you would be with this sexual, that he's like, exactly, into both genders, it would just have been, this is him, take it or leave it, But as he has so many issues around it, and it was so obvious how we can make something that we think is a flaw or is not perfect, and we can blow it up to such a big thing while others would not even care,
but
and then
it ruined the relationship because of that.
And then because of how she reacted, because she was maneuvered in a corner, and she had at one point to react the way she did, then he could point his finger at her. You see, you don't accept me neither. But it was really the way how he brought it up, because she would totally accept it.
He went into defense mode straight away, and that's what was really off-putting, is that because in the pods he could not tell us enough about how much people have been shunning him almost, they've been rejecting him because of it. He couldn't say it enough. Then when he tells her, he goes, no one's ever had a problem with it. You're the only one who's had a problem with it. And I'm like, whoa, but just wait a minute here, mister. Like, which one is it? But I think, like, it would have been ideal if he said it in, like, from the get-go or before they got engaged, It's a bit like, do you want kids or do you not want kids? I don't know. Do you want to do you want to be in a triple? Do you want to have like, do you want to be in a polyamorous relationship? That's also something you'd want to say before you got engaged,
Yes, of course.
If you knew, I mean, sometimes you can be married 10 years and then you realize you want to add someone else. Fine. That's different.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously he didn't say they were engaged. Even if he says it after they engaged, there's a way he could have just said, look, I didn't say it. I should have said it. This is the deal. Obviously it's a big, I know it can feel like a lot, but I'm still me. I'm still the person you fell in love with. I should have told you I'm sorry. But he didn't do that. He went straight into, I can't remember how he did it. It was very obvious when I watched it. It was like, he was so mean about it to her.
True. Yeah.
And then he expected her already to reject him. Yeah.
Yeah. He was already like, you're rejecting me. Exactly. And she was like, wait, no. Let me I just need to process. And she was, and you mentioned this in your article, at the same time, she was like, she was reaching out to him and like putting her hand on his back and he was aggressive. He threw his glass out. Like he was very, I was scared first. Like, wait, what's he doing? Very aggressive. And so she had to at the same time process and comfort him. She was actually trying to comfort him, but he didn't see any of that. He wanted to make her the bad woman, make her the witch. And then obviously after enough abuse from him, and the next day, like she wanted to talk to him. And again, he was being very abusive towards her. And then this is, I think she probably regrets this bit. It was that obviously she lost her shit, right, as well.
Yeah, she snapped.
She snapped. But the thing is, if someone talks to you like that, at some point, it's like, he was very mean, and he was talking about her wig, and I was like, oh my God, don't go there.
Yeah, it was very condescending, and I understand, because I would, if somebody would keep on talking about to me in a certain way, I would also lose it at one point.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
We're only human in the end.
We're only human, and I think it's a shame, because I think both of them got, you could say in the reunion, they both got very traumatized after saying, I love bullies, love trolls.
Both got trashed.
Both got trashed, and it's a horrible feeling, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think where I feel really disappointed is that he really vilified her, and also I think people could almost make it look like, oh, she's homophobic or
true.
And actually it's got nothing to do with that. The thing is, she has the right as well. You don't have to be she has the right to not, let's say if she was like, had thought about it and like, I'm not comfortable, it's not going to do it for me. She has the right to say no.
Of course.
You can't force. Yeah, because I think that's almost like mental rape. Some people are like, oh, you have to like everything and everyone. And you have to like be sucking everybody's dick and sleep with everyone to show that you're not
racist or homophobic. Yeah,
exactly. And that's emotional rape, I feel. And I think you need she has the right to say no, but the thing is, she didn't even have a time or a minute to say yes.
No.
Right? You have to give people a minute. He's had years to process this.
Yeah.
He just told her.
And still hasn't processed it. That's the point.
Exactly. And then he expects her to process it for him. And I think that's the problem. And I really didn't like that bit. And it's like, you can be okay with something without wanting to be engaged in it. Like, what I'm saying is like,
totally
exactly.
True. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, exactly. I mean, you know what I mean. So, that was a bit of I felt for them both, but I was a bit good job. I was like, Carlton, you need to give her a minute here. That's not cool, Yeah. He let himself down as well. I think it's a shame.
Yeah, and that's what he felt the most in the reunion.
Yes,
he was very clear about that he let himself and therefore also her down,
and also his community and everybody. He felt
he really carries the weight of the world on his shoulders.
He even gave her the ring back, right, as a friendship ring to apologize because he was like I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
You know what I was researching yesterday? It shows that apparently they're not talking anymore again. So,
really?
Okay.
God knows. I mean, it could just be gossip. Then the last couple, Cameron and Lauren. So obviously I think the favorite of the show. Obviously, I was absolutely rooting for them as well. Like, obviously now I'm a bit bored of it, but they were I was so rooting for them. They were so healthy. Really showed they almost showed me. Lauren was showing me who I wanted to be in partnership, and Cameron was showing so much, a lot as well. I think of what it's like to be a man. but still being sensitive. Could you give me a little bit of like both your thoughts around them?
I totally am with you on the fact that they come across as the most healthy, most mature couple. They are both. They are very mature. I also understand the fact that you said that later on they became very boring to you, because I already in the show had, especially around Cameron, I thought, are they really the most healthy couple? That was what was going through my head, because he was very gentle. He was never a pushover. But I also had a feeling that he constantly tiptoed around her. He constantly followed
and
her
dad,
needs.
and her dad as
and
well.
her dad.
Very obvious
And he
there.
never stood up for what he actually wanted or needed. He never took the control. He actually also never took the lead. And you cannot say that if you, as a guy, don't take the lead, that you are not masculine enough, because this is not what I'm saying here. But I perceived him way too much like a follower.
Well, she was very, like, I think we agree. Everybody agrees she's just amazing. She's like just so funny. Like the things she said, just how she is. You just love looking at her, and she's also like everybody's beautiful.
She's very
she's so beautiful,
but she's very vibrant. Yes,
very vibrant. Yes,
she is.
yeah.
And I also saw, like, the thing is this: big love doesn't have to be with fireworks and super drama and blah. It doesn't have to be like that at all.
No.
And maybe it's also because we perceive it a bit as boring, because they didn't have all that drama going on. But I'm just wondering. Bas, I remember Bas saying oftentimes, is she really that much into him? Is she really into him?
Yeah, because I had lots of times then he approached her in a certain way, in a way that he held her or he wanted to kiss her. And she always did something very strange with her eyes, as if she felt somehow uncomfortable.
She turned it off into something funny.
Yeah.
And her mouth as well, sometimes she made like a funny movement with her mouth, like almost unconsciously, almost like a bit like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
exactly. And I don't know if she too was rationalizing everything, because she felt that he was actually good for her. Or there's also something that I couldn't pinpoint, like put my finger on it, because of course we're not too deep into it, and it looks very nice on the outside, and maybe it is, maybe it totally is. I don't want to like rip something apart that just works, and it's totally fine for the two of them. But I also had the feeling that he's a gentleman, and he was so adaptive to everybody, and like
almost too perfect.
He had to prove himself to the dad, and he did so great. Like he was constantly the one being tested, while she was just leaning back and making the decisions. And well, I cannot say so much about it, because they didn't show so much about what is actually going on. What is he actually feeling? What is she actually feeling?
Do you know? Sorry.
Superficial in a way. Yeah.
I think it was very much one way, in terms of like a lot of stuff was said one way that wouldn't have been acceptable the other way. And I had a bit of an issue with that. But I think, like you said, he was so people pleasing. And the dad picked up on it. The dad didn't like it. I don't know if you remember this. He's like, I think it's a bit soft, or whatever he said. And it's true, it's a bit soft. And I think, but one thing that I did pick up on that I liked actually about, when I liked a lot of things about Cameron and Lauren, but one of the things with Cameron, for example, that I liked is that as much as he can be like really gentle with her, he was also firm. Like, the night before the wedding, she still doesn't know if she still can't tell him if it's a yes from her. But there was something in that interaction between the two, and I felt like what I respected about him then was that I could feel that he was able to walk away if she was annoyed.
He was angry. He was angry about that. Yeah. And I think that's the reason she said why. The reason why she said yes in the end, because he showed anger there. I really believe that.
Yeah, he showed her that he wasn't a puppet. He was like, fine, if you don't like me, I don't have to like you. I can like you from afar. I don't have to be like he had standards, and that was like that to him. That was a hard limit, I think, for him.
Yeah,
she still didn't know, and he was like, you know what? If you still don't know, I can't be with someone who's not in.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. I forgot about that actually.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
You can only respect that when someone says that to you. It's like, oh, that's a little bit hot. I think I may want to climb you again. You know, it's like, it's like, I think something happened there. Like for her, she's like, okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's but one thing that actually the last thing I want to say about them is that what was interesting is that in the pods before they got engaged, she said, "I like you first." She also returned when he then says to her, "I've been thinking about you." She said, "Me too," and then she added, "I've been talking about you." She also says, "I think I love you first."
Yeah.
Now this is interesting because in my experience, that doesn't turn down too well. So was it because she was because she said it from a secure place? She wasn't like, I'm going to mold myself into whatever you want me to be, and I love you first, and I like you first. You know, is it because there was like a ground, there's like substance to her that means that it doesn't frighten him so much, like a regular guy, or is it because of the connection they built?
I think these men already were, all of them, ready to say yes in a way, because otherwise they wouldn't have gone into these pods and being part of that experiment. So that there is already some kind of a selection of men who really are actually committed to, they're ready to say yes at one point. Plus, I think she's very, can feel that she's a woman who stands on her 2 feet. She has her own life. She doesn't need a man. So I think a woman like her can totally say that without a man feeling, oh my goodness, I feel devoured by her, Also, she has this humor again, like this brings this lightness. And I also think, of course, maybe it has been cut together that way. Maybe, I don't know, maybe she really said it first. It's okay to say it first as a woman if it feels right. And there's not a rule that the man has to say it first.
I agree. I think it's like it goes wrong if you're needy. So you can even say to
yes, that's the problem.
I think if you're really feeling the guy, but he's not there yet. So again, it's to do with self-awareness, because if you're not aware, you're going to think he's there. And that's when it goes wrong, right? That's when it feels needy and forced and suffocating, I think. But if a guy, like for me, I'll be more receptive if I wasn't feeling a guy completely yet, but he liked me. If he said to me, I don't feel weird about it, I know you're not ready yet, but I just want to say that I really like you, or I love you, I'm falling for you, I'll be like, I respect that he knows this, that he gets it, and he's owning up to it. That to me will make me melt for him a bit more. And I think it's the same universal. If a woman says, don't feel weird about it, I know you're not there, I just want to say, like, I'm falling for you.
It's exactly that point when you don't need it from the other to hear. You can just say it by knowing it's okay if the other cannot say it right now, but you just wanted to let him know, instead of like, I say it because I actually wanted to hear it from you. Yeah. And when you have this energy behind it, exactly. When you need this, I need it back right now, otherwise I'm going to be heartbroken. This is when men feel suffocated, and women too.
And women too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about this maturity. It's the same when someone in a relationship says to the other person, I love you, and they expect it back, or the other feels that they have to say it back. This is so about not being unconditional and not being mature about it, actually. And absolutely. This is when I see people do that without needing something in response, I almost secretly applaud always, because I think this is a very beautiful proof of standing on your own 2 feet, being not too needy, and there's nothing wrong with being needy, because everybody is sometimes needy, also man, and just stating things without having to get something back in return.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think so. I'm just thinking, because I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking, like, because obviously, like, like I had all these other things I want to talk about, like from your article. I think some things obviously we've already gone over.
Yeah.
So I guess I just wanted to sort of put it to you, and I guess like to round up. And I think maybe we should have you back on again, actually, to do another episode. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, that's great. We would love that. I really like your energy.
Yes. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I guess what I'd like to do is maybe like I'll keep the second part. We'll do like another episode on the thing on the article, because there's a lot of I don't want to brush over it. I don't want to rush it because there's many things that I want to go into depth because it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I'll put the link in the show notes as well for the listeners. So if you want to like read it, and then we'll do like an episode on this. But I guess like in terms of to round up, before I ask you the finishing thoughts the questions I ask all my guests at the end, is there anything you'd want to add that I may not have asked you, or you may not have felt you have expressed yourself, like for for you, Priska, and for you, Bas? If you want to maybe like in turn just take it, like, is there anything you'd like to add to what we talked about around the show, or love and stuff and connection? And
I think that, I don't know, like maybe to round it up, it's more about why this experiment was such a big success. It's really because we talked about it earlier, but it's more about this vulnerability, this presence, and this connection that is really so much craved in the dating world right now. And maybe that even this COVID-19 situation is adding a bit to that, so that people, when you meet somebody right now only online, that this can even deepen relate, like, giving a base. It doesn't mean that you have to marry afterwards or get engaged or whatever, but like just having this more in-depth conversation, because you cannot just go on dates and have sex and booty calls, and just swipe right again and have another one. It's more about also people get much more in contact with their fears, with their with their maybe also wishes, what do I actually want to do with life during this pandemic, or just because everything comes up in this time of crisis, that there is actually a chance that people have more of that again.
Yeah. We hear a lot of people that are busy being online dating now. They really change, that people really step up, really show up more vulnerable, really cut to the chase. Don't bullshit around anymore. Really ask about the person behind the beautiful picture. So I think this is really a beautiful development. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, there are still scammers out there that they will always be there, but just in general, this is what we hear back.
What did you say will always be there?
That there are always, scammers, people are cheating, or who just want to.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we cannot erase them from the online world. I wish we could, but we can't. But still, I think there's a chance to really meet people on a different level, in a different way right now.
Yep.
This is such a good point. I was gonna, I think this COVID-19 thing, this isolation stuff, is I think for us the singles, it's a great time to prep. Like, you can prepare for the future. So, because I was like, dating is cancelled for me in 2020. I'll look at 2021. But then I was like, wait a minute, no. It's a good time, like you said, like to build like a deeper connection with someone. My question is that obviously we do get to see the picture, right? So it's different from Love is Blind, because we get to see the picture.
Yep.
So we know what they look like, but is it okay? Am I deluded by thinking that, okay, I've seen their picture, so I know, I'm feeling it, before smelling them, but I'm feeling it at this time. That if we're not building a connection, because obviously you're talking on the phone, eventually probably FaceTime or Zooming with someone, but if there is no conversation, it'll fade away quickly because you don't have the sex to fill up the gaps.
Yes.
True.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
Yes. And again, this is exactly the way Bas and I met. Like, we only had the written language in the beginning. Of course, we had pictures. But again, I know you don't know that because we didn't talk about it. He was not even my type because he's 11 years older. He was married. He had kids. It was zero.
But like also physically, I was totally not.
No, I was more, going for the Italian kind of curly, darker guy, and he's like this redhead. So no, not on my. It was not on my screen. So we started out totally as friends, just chatting, and all of a sudden, this spark came into it, and we didn't even want it, and it just happened. And and again, of course, there was still this fear of what if, or also hope in a way, that what if we don't like each other's smell? Because again, he was married, so we didn't actually want that, and still, it's another story again. But
we're totally gonna get into it because I don't know the story either. But we do when we do the next episode, we
perfect.
Yeah.
But so this was also our way of meeting, and I mean, like, we went in 5 years through so much stuff together, like other years don't go through in, I think, 20 or 30 years.
Other couples,
yes, we had so much shit to go through. But I know, I'm so sure we survived all of this because we had this deep emotional connection that we've built in the beginning.
Yeah.
Starting out as friends, even, you know, like where there was no sex included, where was no like kind of a distraction, because I mean, like hormones and sex can also be distracting to get to know a person.
Yes.
You just go there because it's just so
safe and it's
overwhelming,
expected, and
it's what people do. But like, this is really a chance to, you know, so single ladies out there, or also Angie, that doesn't mean that you cannot meet the love of your life during that time. Absolutely not. You can also look at your patterns. You can heal a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, you can meet the man of your life or woman of your life.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And I think also another great thing is now you also get, the great thing about now is you get to see how that other person is dealing with a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
how they deal with stress, how they deal with the news, how they deal with time, and that will say a lot about someone. It cuts through a lot, because you don't even have to. They show you; they don't have to tell you.
Yes,
they're showing you, and that's a lot. Yes, it's and I think also now when you're saying that people are cutting through the bullshit online, you see people stepping up more. I think because, listen, darling, we need to get ready for the second pandemic. Are we going to quarantine together, or are we not going to be together? Because that's a make or break situation. Okay, so I think we have to step up, right? Because it's like, oh, you want to? Because I'd rather be by myself, because I love being by myself. I'd rather be by myself than in bad company, and I do not want to be quarantined with someone that's not a fit, because oh my goodness, the nightmare, right? So I think it's a great time to get to know how people are dealing with situations like this, and I will tell you a lot more very quickly. We get a lot of information now.
That's very true.
Yeah,
totally.
So this has been so wonderful, Priska and Bas, and I want to ask you, I always ask the same two questions to all my guests. So if you could take it in turn to answer this. The first one is, what would you tell your 18-year-old, the first one is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
What I would tell my 18-year-old self is that it's totally okay to be a person with flaws and with quirks and with crazy things going on, and that you are totally allowed to embody them, to really show the total multicoloredness of your complete being, and that the opinions of other people do not define who you are. The only truth you can find is always within yourself, and it's not always an easy thing to reach that truth or to build it within yourself, but this is really where everything can be found.
Yes. And for me, it's in the same direction. I would tell myself, there's nothing wrong with you, Priska. There's so nothing wrong with you. And you're lovable exactly the way that you are.
Yeah.
In short.
Oh gosh, I wish I knew that when I was 18 as well. Absolutely. And so the last one is, what stuff do you not put up with anymore?
What stuff do I not put up with anymore? That's a good one.
People telling me what to think, to do, or like just to want to define me, who I need to be.
Yes.
It's just I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean, of course, that I always want to grow and be called on my BS, out on my BS or anything. But just like, if people need to tell me what to believe, or this is really, I think, no.
Yeah, and there's a difference between that, between call down your BS and then telling you, no, you should be voting this, or you should be making this, or you should be doing this in the bedroom. No, fuck you. I'll do it.
Yeah, true. And I think for me, what stuff do I not put up with anymore is someone who is not relating to me or approaching me in their most authentic self. I cannot deal with fake people anymore, because I also want to be called out on my bullshit whenever I do something that isn't aligned with what people around me see. And this is not that they force their opinion upon me, but that they just call me out on things they feel, so that I also can keep on growing and keep on reinventing myself and keep on becoming the most the best version of myself, actually.
Yeah, and also, yeah, absolutely. I think being yourself as well is important because it allows the people to be themselves around you, and it creates a bond. When you have a bit of a conflict, but you bring up to a resolution, it creates a bond. It's
absolutely.
like, you gotta. So, Doc, this has been so good. Can you please tell us where can people find you and work with you?
Well, they can find us via our website, thelovealchemists.com. And we also are hanging out a lot on Facebook. We have an amazing Facebook group for women only. It's for singles and for women in relationship. It's called the Soulmate Society, where we also have shit tons of free resources, and we go live weekly and answer questions. And it's a beautiful community in there. And I think that's it.
Yeah, we are also on Instagram, but really, if you wanna connect to us and really want to reach us, then on Facebook, it's this group, the Soulmate Society, and the website, the Love Alchemists.com.
And also on Facebook, the Love Alchemists, or you can connect with us on Facebook, Priska Helena Baumann and Bas Weyers.
Yeah.
And we're just hanging out a lot there and answering people's questions and are serving there as good as we can.
Yep.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Instagram is also the Love Alchemists.
It's the _love_alchemists.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'll put all of this in the show notes. Thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much, Priska and Bas. Really,
thank you
so much, Angie, for having
Angie,
us,
really.
for all the time and for all the effort you also put into these sheets. That's really amazing.
It's really beautiful what you did here.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're an expert yourself. You became an expert yourself by doing all these podcasts.
Yeah,
but it's been very therapeutic. But obviously, having guests like you is absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, Angie.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
And that's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to rate, review, share it, subscribe it on iTunes, follow it on Spotify, or whichever platform you listen from. However you show love is how you can support this show. Drop me your questions or suggestions for future episodes via the website at angie-s.com, or come and find me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One is at Tool for This Shit Podcast and at Health Expert Angie. Link in the show notes. See you next week, and until then,
Using health inappropriately.